Hello, I'm Julia Cordova. Thank you so much for subscribing to my YouTube channel. I really appreciate it. So today, I'm just going to talk about Raytheon RTX. And why am I going to talk about Raytheon? It's because I have been following this guy on Twitter, Dave Portnoy, but I am super uncool, you guys. I haven't really been paying attention to him so far. But on Friday, I couldn't help but see everyone talking about the fact that he literally picked a stock, Raytheon, by picking out random letters out of a Scrabble bag. There was a lot of fondling going on in that bag. That was, I don't know, was it random? Was it really? It doesn't even matter. If you saw my last video, I literally talked about as long as you have a plan, it really does not matter where you buy a stock. You just have to have a plan to win and a plan to lose. And that's it. It's that simple. So today I thought we would take a look at the chart first without any lines on it, naked, and see what we think. And then I'm going to unleash the power of Cordova lines on the chart. And I'm sure I might get a lot of criticism for this. I like my lines, y'all. I like my lines. And does it bother me to get a lot of criticism? No, I don't care. I care about making money and helping others, in that order. And so that's all that really matters. So let's look at Raytheon and see what we think. All right. Okay, here's the naked chart. And you can see here, dating back to about a year ago or so, the chart was, or the price action was pretty much just wah-wah in an upward moving pattern with everything else in the universe. And then in February, right about when everything else took a drop, so did Raytheon. Big time. Big time. And since then, it's sort of formed what looks like, at first glance, a bear flag. That is a large pull and then sort of an upward shaped wave pattern that forms a flag. Not necessarily the most bullish thing in the world. Also, if you look at most other stocks, let's just say in SPX, for example, they're not quite to all-time highs yet, but they're pretty much right about here. If I don't know if this is an all-time high or not, but if we're looking at the high before the drop, they're pretty much here. So if Raytheon were tracking with most other stocks, it would be at around maybe high 80s, low 90s, and it's not. It's not. So that's not a sign of strength in general. And then the third bearish thing that I can see just right off the bat would be that this looks like it could potentially be a head and shoulders pattern. Now it's little. It's probably a lot more obvious on the hourly chart or on the 4-hour chart. But here's a shoulder, head, and then another shoulder forming. And then the neckline would be right at around 62.5 or so, somewhere around there. So it isn't something where if I just took a look at it for the first time, I'd say, wow, gotta get me some of that. But do I think it's bearish? Not necessarily, and here's why. So I'm gonna zoom out a little bit more here. See, that's interesting. See the price line? It drew a line for me. Now you can see right around December of 2018 or so, looks like it formed an inverse head and shoulders. You see that? Here's a shoulder, big head, another shoulder, and then it went up. But anyway, this is clearly a major inflection point for the stock, right? It was nowhere near here. It's been nowhere near here since, until after the drop. But I've talked about before the fact that horizontal lines in price sometimes carry a lot more weight than diagonal channel lines. So this is interesting, right? I mean, it's still above that major inflection point right now. And if you look at where the major inflection point ends, and what did I say, 62.5 or so? This is 62.30. So right here, where the support would be from a neckline of head and shoulders, is also the support of a previous low, a previous huge turning point. So that's good. That's actually very good. So now let's unleash the power of Cordova lines. I crack myself up, you guys. I haven't even had a Bloody Mary yet. All right. Oh boy, I can't even wait to hear the comments. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Okay, so I highlighted here where Dave bought on Friday. It says I did the hour where he bought, and I don't know exactly when he bought, but I was like somewhere around 4 o'clock. I don't know. Anyway, he's in right about here, and then the neckline is also a gap, right? So I actually I kind of highlighted all the gaps here that I'm looking at, and there's two huge gaps underneath, right? One is the neckline, and then one is right about here. So those are places to look out for in case you are long. But and I drew in some RSI support and resistance lines here. So what I would be looking for to sort of tell me that this in fact might be something that is worth trading and or investing is I would be looking for, and I hope it does because that would be super great, I would be looking for it to hit this neckline area, which is 62.47 on Monday, hopefully. And then I'd actually like it to fill some of this gap here. I'll compare where it is in RSI support, and I'll certainly let you know on the Twitter machine whether or not it hits price and RSI support at the same time. Which doesn't mean it can't get lower, it just means that's a really nice area. And we talked about before the fact that it doesn't necessarily look bullish, it looks bearish for the three reasons I talked about: bear flag, head and shoulder, little mini head and shoulders, and the fact that it's not quite kept up with its peers. It's not a great I'm gonna go all in trade, but is it worth maybe a third of scaling in? Sure, why not? Especially if we can get it right below this neckline here, because a lot of times, and you've probably seen this in other head and shoulders patterns, if it doesn't bounce directly from this neckline, a lot of times it will almost fill a gap, but not quite, and then zoom back up, because even though it looks super bearish, the more bearish it looks, a lot of times the more bullish it actually is. They don't make it easy for us, guys. They don't make it easy for us. But I'm a bottom catcher, and I like some drama. So I'll be looking for it on Monday to hit RSI support and price support at the same time. And I will, if it does that, take a 1/3 position in it. And then I'm going to have another plan here. In case it is a head and shoulders, the measured move would be approximately down to this blue line or so. So one way we could play it is to buy a third here and then buy the other 2/3 either, and this is subjective, right? But I think that if it gets above 72.76, then it'll actually squeeze. And the reason I think that is because if you look here, there's not a lot of candle bodies. It's sort of open space over here. It's open space over here. So I think that if it closes above 72.76, it's got a pretty good shot at right up. And we'll have to see. But I think that's the two options, right? Either you buy it with the intention of doubling down, or even buying your other two scales here and then stopping out if it gets below where I would consider the very last. This would be a lower low. I mean, and could it be a double bottom? Possibly. Could you hang in there for it? I don't know. Calculate the amount you're willing to lose. But if it does hold this neckline on Monday, especially if it closes above the neckline, I don't think it's a horrible opportunity right now. Now I'm not looking at this in the context of what else I think the market is going to do. I'm just looking at this purely by itself. So it's weak. I'll give it a third of a scale, somewhere around somewhere between the neckline and this line, wherever it hits RSI support. And then I will wait. And most likely I'll just hold that in my investment account, and depending on what happens next, look for it to either get above 72.76, in which case I will add the other 2/3, or I would take another stab at it potentially right here, and then hold with a stop just underneath a double bottom. And that would be my plan. Okay, well, I hope that was helpful. I hope you're having a great weekend, and thank you again for subscribing to my channel, and take care. Bye.